And now I would like to introduce Dr. Nicholas Coleman, who is our Deputy Director of the Interfaith Centre of Melbourne. Nicholas has studied the world's religions and lived the spiritual life for 50 years. He received his PhD in philosophy of religion from the University of Cambridge in 1990. Dr. Coleman was consultant writer for the Victorian, the VCE Religion and Society Study in 1992, and in 1999 he wrote the first Australian monograph on world religion studies. Nicholas is as I mentioned, is the Deputy Director of our Interfaith Centre of Melbourne and Master Director of the Granity School of Spiritual Studies at Tallarook, Victoria. But just before I ask Nicholas to come to the microphone here, I would like to just show you a very brief 2-minute clip of someone who experienced this beautiful planet from outer space. And so I think David is just going to show it to us now, and perhaps our speakers, if you would like to just sit in the front row for 2 minutes, you will then be able to view the segment as well. And then Nicholas will take us forward into the next part of our program. So thank you again for coming, and I'm sure you will have a wonderful time this afternoon.
I had completed my major task for going to the moon and was on the way home and was observing the heavens and the earth from this distance, observing the passing of the heavens as we were rotating. I saw the earth, the sun, the moon, and a 360-degree panorama of the heavens. The magnificence of all of this, what this triggered in my visioning, in the ancient Sanskrit, is called samadhi. It means that you see things with your senses the way they are, but you experience them viscerally and internally as a unity and a oneness, accompanied by ecstasy. All matter in our universe is created in star systems. And so the matter in my body and the matter in the spacecraft and the matter in my partner's bodies was the product of stars. We are stardust. And we're all one in that sense.
That's part of a line from a Joni Mitchell song. We are stardust, we are diamonds. I think she wrote that song for the Woodstock Music Festival in the 1960s. And those of us who can remember back that far, we might remember that in the early 1960s there was a movie called It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. In the late 60s there was a musical called Stop the World, I Want to Get Off. So here we are today, I guess you're doing yourselves a big favour being here, reflecting on the changing world that we find ourselves in. That's not a new idea. People have been finding the world a little bit too much for quite some time. I was listening to Edgar Mitchell just then saying he had a 360-degree panoramic view of the earth and the sun and the moon and the stars. Maybe he felt like a centre point around which things were turning. That experience for him seemed to ground him rather than spin him out. On the cutting room floor of today's event, we were going to have a representative of the contemporary scientific creation story. Instead, we got Edgar Mitchell summing it up in one short phrase, that all the material of our bodies and of this planet were created in stars. That's the modern scientific creation story. Today we're going to, as part of the World Interfaith Harmony Week, which became established as an observance event in 2010, when King Abdullah II and Prince Ghazi bin Mohammed of Jordan proposed to the UN General Assembly that there be a World Interfaith Harmony Week, and it was unanimously accepted by the General Assembly. The idea of this week and this event, which is part of it, is to welcome and include people of all faiths and of none in community events. Of course, we can respect the differences between ourselves and other people, but that should not prevent us from acknowledging and affirming the similarities as well. And King Abdullah proposed two basic principles that we can all agree on. One was love of God, or love of the good, however conceived by different people differently. And the other is love of neighbour. Those two principles, loving God or the good and loving other people, they can be constants in our lives and our practice and our behaviour. And I'm sure as I invite the representatives from our religious traditions today, we will find that those principles are already well established in the world's traditions of religion. So the faith leaders are going to present their reflections on the creation story from their own tradition and on the values of those stories that help give meaning to our lives.